Hello. Thank you for listening to Sandlando Sound Waves. I'm Kelly Gendelsberger, and today is week 11, day 51. I'm going to be reading Exodus chapter 2, verses 23 through 25. Years passed, and the king of Egypt died, but the Israelites continued to groan under their burden of slavery. They cried out for God. He heard their groaning, and he remembered that his covenant promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He looked down on the people of Israel and knew it was time to act. Let's look at our 7 arrows. What does this passage say? What did this passage mean to its original audience? What does this passage tell us about God? What does this passage tell us about man? What does this passage demand of me? How does this passage change the way I relate to people? What does this passage prompt me to say to God? And now our devotional. The beginning of the book of Exodus isn't what you might expect at this point in God's history or story. God's promises were being fulfilled through the nation of Israel. He was gathering a people who would reflect him throughout the world, but they had become slaves in Egypt. After Joseph's death, the nation was enslaved to the Egyptian Pharaoh who opposed God's people. Israel grew numerically, fulfilling God's promise that they would be as many of the stars of the sky. But they weren't filling the earth as image-bearing reflections of God's glory. Yes, they were slaves in a foreign land, but God had not abandoned his people. They cried out to God, who never turned his back on them. He heard their cry, understood their pain, and remembered what he committed to do on their behalf. God began the work of delivering his people from slavery in Egypt through his appointed leader, Moses. God does the same for his children today. When we cry out to him because of our sin, we can trust that he hears, understands, and acts on our behalf to provide a way of deliverance. Thanks for listening, and we hope you'll join us again tomorrow.